I want to share a story about a dating experience that completely changed the way I look at modern relationships. It all started a few weeks ago when I matched with a girl on a popular dating app. On her profile, she looked beautiful, and her bio said she was looking for a traditional man who knew how to treat a woman right. We started texting, and at first, everything seemed totally normal. She was responsive, she asked about my job, and we had what I thought was a genuine connection. After talking for about 2 weeks, I decided it was time to take her out on a proper date. I asked her what kind of food she liked, and she suggested a high-end restaurant downtown. I wanted to make a good first impression, so I agreed, made a reservation, and looked forward to the weekend. When the night of the date arrived, I got dressed up, drove downtown, and arrived at the restaurant a few minutes early. I sat at our table waiting for her. When she finally walked in, she was wearing expensive clothes and looked just like her pictures, but her energy was completely different from her text messages. She didn't smile, she didn't say a proper hello, and she didn't even ask how my day was. The very first words out of her mouth when she sat down were about her car. She looked frustrated and told me that her Jeep was making a terrible rattling noise on the highway. Then, without even asking if I knew anything about mechanics, she looked me dead in the eye and said that I needed to drive her car after dinner, figure out the problem, and fix it for her. I was a bit taken by surprise, but I just smiled and brushed it off, thinking she was probably just nervous and trying to start a conversation with the first thing on her mind. I had no idea that this was just the warning sign of a massive nightmare. When the waiter came over to take our orders, things got even stranger. She didn't look at the prices on the menu at all. She immediately ordered the most expensive prime rib steak, 2 separate premium appetizers just for herself, and a couple of very expensive cocktails. I ordered a simple burger and a soda. As we waited for the food, I tried to start a normal conversation. I asked her about her hobbies, her career goals, and what she liked to do for fun, but she completely ignored my questions and turned the conversation entirely onto herself. She spent the next 45 minutes talking about her lifestyle, her expensive taste, and how her ex-boyfriends never did enough for her. She explicitly told me that she expects a real man to fully provide for a woman's every single need, no questions asked. She said that a woman's job is just to look good, and the man's job is to handle all the financial burdens. The entire time she was talking, she kept checking her phone, replying to messages, and barely even looked at me. It felt less like a romantic date and more like a job interview where she was the boss and I was applying for the position of her personal bank account. When the food arrived, she ate her expensive meal without showing any gratitude. She didn't say thank you to the waiter, and she certainly didn't say thank you to me. By the time dinner was over, the waiter brought the bill to the table. The total was over $250. I picked up the folder and looked at the receipt, expecting her to at least make the polite gesture of offering to split it, or at the very least, say thank you for the expensive dinner. Instead, she completely ignored the bill. She didn't even glance at it. She just stood up, grabbed her designer purse, looked at me, and said that we needed to leave immediately because we had errands to run. She told me that we needed to drive to the nearest gas station right now because her fuel tank was completely empty and she needed a full tank of gas. Then, she added that we had to drive to an auto parts store before it closed because she found the specific part her car needed online, and she expected me to buy it for her and install it in the parking lot. I sat there in my chair, completely stunned by the sheer level of entitlement. I looked at her calmly and asked if she seriously expected a man she just met an hour ago to pay for her luxury dinner, fill up her gas tank, buy her expensive car parts, and do free mechanical labor for her on a first date. She looked at me with total shock and disgust, as if I had insulted her. She raised her voice slightly and told me that since I am the man who asked her out, it was my absolute responsibility to take care of all her expenses for the evening. She said if I couldn't handle a simple request like fixing her car and buying her gas, then I wasn't a real provider and I was wasting her valuable time. Right then, a switch flipped in my brain. I realized with absolute clarity that this girl did not care about finding a connection, a relationship, or a good partner. She didn't see me as a human being. She just saw me as a walking wallet, a tool she could use to solve her financial and personal problems for free. I knew that if I paid that bill and followed her to the gas station, I would be disrespecting myself. I needed to give her a reality check that she would never forget. I looked at her, smiled very politely, and told her that she was completely right and that I just needed to grab my extra credit card from the glove compartment of my car to pay for everything. She nodded, looked satisfied, and sat back down to check her phone again. I stood up, walked calmly past the front desk, and stepped out into the cool night air. I walked straight to my Jeep, started the engine, pulled out of the parking lot, and drove straight onto the highway toward my house. I left her sitting at that table alone with a $250 bill. About 15 minutes into my drive home, my phone began to vibrate violently. It was blowing up with dozens of angry text messages and consecutive missed calls. She was absolutely furious. She sent me long paragraphs screaming in all capital letters, calling me every terrible name you can think of. She said I was a broke, childish, and horrible person for leaving her stranded at a restaurant downtown with a massive bill she couldn't afford to pay. She claimed that I ruined her entire night, and that I owed her a massive apology. I didn't reply to a single text. I just sat in my car, listening to the music, feeling a massive sense of relief that I stood up for myself. She came to that date intending to take complete advantage of a man's kindness and generosity, but instead she walked away with a massive reality check about how the real world works. Respect is a two-way street, and no one deserves to be treated like a free meal ticket. So, I want to ask you guys watching this right now, do you think I went too far by leaving her at the restaurant, or did she get exactly what she deserved for her behavior? Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below.